So today is the divine disappearance of Vrindavan Das Thakur. So we could sing the song, Sparshada Bhagavat Viraha Janati Vilapa, or Lamentation due to separation from the Lord and his associates. Ye anila premadana karuna pracho Ye anila premadana karuna pracho Hena prabhu ko tagela acharya thakur Hena prabhu ko tagela acharya thakur Kahamara swarup rupa Kaha sanatan Kaha dasaragunata patita pavan Kahamara bhatta yuga Kaha kaviraj Eka kale kotagela kora nataraj Ashane kotiba mata annale pashiba Koranga gunera nidhi kotagele pabo Se saba sangira sange ye karo viras Se sangana paya kande naratamadas Ye anilo premadana karuna pracho Hena prabhu kota Kela Acharya Thakur. Just read the English. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the saver of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. So we could, I'll read something about Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. All right. In her childhood, Narayani Devi, niece of Srivas Pandit, became mad with love of God upon receiving the mercy of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Later she gave birth to Vrindavan Das, who was the last disciple of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. On his guru's order, he wrote Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. It is practically a law among Vaishnava writers like Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj, and Vrindavan Das Thakur to always keep themselves in the background. They never mention anything about their family lineage or personal history. The authors of the best written and the most relishable verses collected in Sri Rupa Goswami's Padyavali remain unknown. During the 16th century, entire books of exceptional transcendental prose and poetry were penned by prideless Vaishnavas preferring to remain anonymous. Feeling utmost humility, such Vaishnava writers express themselves only in relation to their preceptors. Krishnadas Kaviraj glorifies his gurus at the end of each chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Rupa Raghunath Pade Yar Asa Chaitanya Charitamrita Kaha Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always design their mercy. I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami shows his supreme homage and gratitude by honoring Vrindavan Das Thakur with the appellation Vyas in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya 2082. And this is what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says about Vrindavan Das Thakur. Vrindavan Das Thakur is Lord Nityananda's favorite devotee, and therefore he is the original Vyasadeva in describing the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As Srila Vyasadeva told Sri Krishna's pastimes in Bhagavatam and other Puranas, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur described Chaitanya Leela in Chaitanya Bhagavat. The humble heart of Krishnadas Kaviraj pours out more praises of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And this is what he says: hearing Chaitanya Bhagavat destroys all misfortune. By reading Chaitanya Bhagavat, one will understand the glories of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and he will attain the highest perfection of knowledge, pure love of Krishna. Since such a wonderful book, so he goes on, since such a wonderful book could not be written by a human being, it seems that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has spoken it through the mouth of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. I offer millions of respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. By compiling such a valuable book, he has delivered everyone from the cycle of birth and death. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 8:33 through 42. At Mamagachi in Madrumadweep and Navadweep, Vrindavan Das Thakur established deities of Nitai Gauranga and Sri Jagannath Dev. He lived there as a celibate and worshipped his beloved deities. Vrindavan Thakur had many disciples, including Gopinath Brahmachari, a descendant of Sri Keshava Bharati. And it says, in Krishna's pastimes, Vrindavan Thakur is Srila Vyasadeva. Vrindavan Thakur ki jai. All right, so we could read the Bhagavatam. Did you write the correct verse? Yeah. Okay. Kushma Pita. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 12, Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead. We're on text 15. Manyamana idam vishvam Maya rachitam atmani Avidya rachita swapna Gandharva nagaropamam Manyamana idam vishvam Maya rachitam atmani Avidya rachita swapna Gandharva nagaropamam Manyamana idam vishvam Maya rachitam atmani Avidya rachita swapna Gandharva nagaropamam. Manyamanaha, realizing, idam, this, Vishwam, universe, Maya, by the external energy, Rachitam, manufactured, Atmani, and to the living entity. Avidya, by illusion. Rachita, manufactured. Swapna, a dream. Gandharva, Nagara, phantasmagoria. Upamam, like. Translation. Srila Dhruva Maharaj realized that this cosmic manifestation bewilders living entities like a dream or phantasmagoria because it's a creation of the illusory external energy of the Supreme Lord. Purport. In the deep forests, it sometimes appears that there are big palaces and nice cities. That is technically called Gandharva Nagara. Similarly, in dreams also we create many false things out of imagination. A self-realized person or a devotee knows well that this material cosmic manifestation is a temporary, illusory representation appearing to be truth. It is like a phantasmagoria, but beyond this shadow creation there is reality, the spiritual world. A devotee is interested in the spiritual world, not its shadow. Since he has realization of the supreme truth, a devotee is not interested in this temporary shadow of truth. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Param Drishtva Nivartate. Om Gyanativarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Militamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Kaditavachalam Pangam Langate Girim Yakipatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinitvaranam Vancha Kapdrbishta Kripasandabevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Srila Dhruva Maharaj realized that this cosmic manifestation bewilders living entities like a dream or phantasmagoria because it is a creation of the illusory external energy of the Supreme Lord. So devotees of Krishna, they are focused on that which is important. You could say the essence of things. Like there's this example, there's this saying. There's the letter of the law, and then there's the spirit of the law. So it means that there's you could say rules, and then you could say reasons why we follow rules, or the spirit and behind which we're supposed to follow them. Just like the letter of the law is that you should preach. You should not preach. You should preach. You should spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You should engage in missionary work. We should. So that's the letter of the law. But what is the spirit in which we do it? That has to be done properly, or else we're not really representing Srila Prabhupada or our spiritual master or Krishna properly. So we're kind of missing the point, or we're getting it halfway, maybe at best. Because there's many preachers all over the world. I mean, within every tradition there's preachers, practically speaking. I mean, you go out to different places throughout the city, and Jehovah's Witnesses are there, like, everywhere. Like, literally everywhere. I mean, I'm not sure how much progress they're making, how much literature they're distributing. Yeah. They're, like, everywhere. I mean, you go to any college, they're there, like, every day. They're everywhere. Mormons, they send out their boys. They send their boys out, the boys in white, the white suits and the ties, and on their bikes cruising around. And, they have a map. You go to their church, and then there's a world map there. And then on that map, there's pins. like, what do you call those? Push pins, you know. There's push pins. Okay, here we got some guys in Southern California, we got some guys in New York, we got some guys, it's a world map too, it's not just an American map. We got some guys in China, we got some guys here, there, wherever. They're all over. And yeah, they're preaching. Some Mormons, Jehovah's Witness. Of course, you have the Mayavadis. They're also very active. So many people are actively trying to spread what they think is truth or what they deem to be truth. Like yesterday, we were at Balboa Park and we were engaging in Harinam Sankirtan. We were distributing books. Lord Jagannath was also there, Baladev Subhadra, so all the devotees. It was nice, festival, ecstatic. And for years, I mean, I've been going there, some years, and I never remembered that these fanatical Christian guys were by our booth for so many years. I don't remember that. They go to LA Rath Yatra, right? Everybody knows about them. The guys with the signs, and you have to accept Jesus, you're going to hell, and all these different things. But yeah, I just don't remember them being right next to, they were literally right next to our booth with their loud microphone. What do you call that thing? Megaphone, yeah, their megaphone. And they were shouting, like they were taking turns. One guy would, and they were literally standing on a little platform, like a little stool. You know how they have that saying, oh, soapbox preachers? They're literally standing on the platform. They're standing up there and they have their megaphone. So the first guy, he wasn't so loud. And somehow his voice wasn't so loud. And I was there trying to distribute books, and so it didn't really bother me so much. But then the second guy, oh, he was fired up. He was like really loud, just like shouting. They were taking turns. So about 3 guys. So they're preaching. They're preaching according to their understanding, according to their realization, if you want to call it that. They're preaching. But is it really, is Lord Jesus Christ really pleased with them? Most people would say no. And a lot of people that are going by our booths and calling them, they're like, man, those guys are calling them, names. I won't repeat in the temple. They're calling them foul names. These guys are, so they're following the letter of the law, which means is to preach. It's in their Bible. They should preach, but they're not really they're not following the spirit, of the law. They're actually discouraging people. They are making people angry. I mean, a lot of people are angry with them. They had a big group at the end. They're all kind of asking them questions, going back and forth. So yeah, we are focused on, you could say, as practitioners of Krishna consciousness, we want to focus on the important principles of life, or you could say the essence of life, or the letter of the law, but also we want to follow in the proper way. And you could say, what are the main problems? Because the karmis, the materialistic people, they and everybody sees that there's faults. It's not that just devotees, just practitioners of Krishna consciousness see that there's faults in this world. Everybody sees that there's faults in this world, practically speaking. But as practitioners of Krishna consciousness, we don't want to get absorbed in those faults. In other words, we don't want to be overly concerned with them because it's a distraction. Just like devotees, I mean, I don't know why, but they spend like practically their whole life, all of their energy, literally, some of them, in discussing the faults and problems of other practitioners and of the ISKCON and of Vaishnavas and whatever it is, whether it's book changing or this or that. It's like, okay, they see some fault, but they're putting all their energy into that. So it's advised not to do that. Nowhere in Scripture does it say that. Nowhere in Scripture, you can't find a reference where it says, yeah, you should find the faults of somebody and you should just latch on to them and just think about it and meditate on them and broadcast them. Or you should find the faults of society and just broadcast them and meditate on them. It doesn't say that anywhere. You can't find that. So why am I saying this? Because there's this reality, there's the spiritual world, there's Krishna consciousness, and then there's the reflection, this material world and all of its problems. It's not that there's the material world and then there's problems. There's the material world and the problems. They're together. So the more we're focused on the material world and its problems, the more we're not really focused on reality. It's just, and you could say, oh, well, it's spiritual and, we're discussing spiritual things. It's like, okay, fine, but with all of that time that devotees could engage in all these things, discussing faults and problems of others and of this world, they could actually be doing something quite beneficial, like reading Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat. I mean, if you could imagine the amounts of time that people spend doing other things, I mean, they could go through the Chaitanya Bhagavat so many times, on the phone. They could go through the Chaitanya Bhagavat a lot, many times, and devotees do that. Like Vaishesha Guru, I'm thinking Vaishesha Guru, I mean, goes through the Bhagavatam all the time, reads, and so many books he goes through, Prabhupada's books. So that's important, not to become absorbed in the faults of this world, and also it means spiritual society too, like ISKCON, and it's not advised to do that. And in relation to Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, I was thinking about this earlier and reading in it and trying to meditate on it, but after Jaga and Madai were delivered, because, they hit Lord Nityananda with the shard or the pot, and then, Nityananda was there, and then Lord Chaitanya, he heard about it, he rushed to the spot, he's very angry, and transcendentally angry, he's going to throw his Sudarshan chakra, which will immediately kill those two brothers. And then Lord Nityananda, we all know, he said, stop, you can't do this, and please don't do this, deliver them, give them love of Godhead. You didn't come to kill the demons in this age with weapons and so on, but you came to deliver them by your mercy. It means to raise them to the transcendental platform of love of Krishna. So that's exactly what Lord Chaitanya did. He delivered them, he gave them love for Krishna, they all engaged in kirtan. Or specifically, before they engaged in kirtan, there was a discussion in Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat. It's raining outside, huh? Wow. It seems to be really raining. Wasn't expecting that. Rain of mercy. So, before they were about to engage in the kirtan, Lord Chaitanya and they were discussing, they said, let's engage in kirtan, and in this way we'll remove the sinful reactions of Jaga and Madai. And then he said, and whoever blasphemes the Vaishnavas, they'll get those sinful reactions. So we'll engage in kirtan, and all those sinful reactions will go to those who blaspheme the Vaishnavas. So that's quite an interesting point, because those sinful reactions that Jaga and Madai had, I mean, they're quite intense. I mean, they were extremely intense reactions. And Lord Chaitanya was saying that, whoever offends the Vaishnavas, you could give them those reactions. That's where the reactions will go. So in other words, when people, they focus on the wrong things, it actually affects them, even in a very negative way. And I mean, it's not surprising that people could find faults. I mean, you don't have to be whatever, Einstein or this genius or that genius. Anybody could find faults. I mean, it's not very difficult. It's Kali Yuga. It's not an amazing thing to find faults. You know, there's faults in politics, right? The Republicans don't like the Democrats, whatever, I don't want to get into all that, but they don't like each other. And then, you know, within religion, within politics, there's all types of faults we could find everywhere. And then people come to spiritual societies, they find faults. And whether they're there or not, which in a lot of cases they are there, it's not an amazing thing to find them. Why? Because the Srimad Bhagavatam actually says that the Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. It's an ocean. And one devotee I heard, which I always thought this was a very intelligent and nice, you know, practical thing that he said. One of the characteristics of the ocean is it cannot be, the contents cannot be measured. So that means the faults of Kali Yuga are immeasurable. They're immeasurable. So why focus on them? It doesn't recommend that. But what does it recommend? It says, but there's one good quality of the sage. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, simply by chanting the holy names of Krishna, one can become liberated and go back to the spiritual world, the reality. Go back to Krishna consciousness, which of course we could, I mean, even in this world, we could enter the spiritual world or realize. So that's what's being advised, to, instead of be absorbed in this world and its faults, to be absorbed in Krishna, and to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness, so we could reach the goal of life. And also Prabhu would bring this point up many times. He would say, what are the real problems? I mean, people think, oh well, whatever, it's this problem, that problem, or you'd say, oh, the problem is Trump, or oh, the problem is, we need a new president of America, or the problem is we need a new temple president, right? The temple, or we need a temple president. We don't have a temple president. We need a temple president. That's a big thing, actually. A lot of devotees, they want a temple president because they want someone to criticize. So things don't go right? Or, I mean, so many things. Oh, the problems is this or that. There's so many different problems, right? Oh, we need. Or the problems is the leaders of ISKCON. They don't got it together. GBC doesn't got it together. Or my local GBC doesn't have it together. It's on and on and on. But these are okay. Maybe these are problems that people see, and maybe they're true, maybe not. But whatever the case is, the real problem is that we don't have love for Krishna. That's the real problem. That's the real problem. The real problem is that we have not, not everybody, but or at least with different degrees, we have not reached the goal of life. The problems are also, Prabhupada would say, birth, death, old age, and disease. By focusing on all these other problems, we're not going to become free from birth, death, old age, and disease. We're going to be born as a guru coolie somewhere, if we're lucky. Which you could say, okay, it's not bad, but why not just go directly to the spiritual world? Why not do that? That's what's been advised. So that's the real problem. The real problem is not these other things, but that we haven't, we needed to become more advanced and more dedicated to Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And therefore Prabhupada says, that a devotee is interested in the spiritual world, not in its shadow. They're interested in Krishna consciousness, not material consciousness. They're interested in truth, not the temporary shadow of truth, not in this material world. And why are they not interested in the material world? It says, param drishtva nivartate, because they have a higher taste. That's the only way. That's the only way to become disinterested in this material world, is by having a higher taste. And some devotees, they can't cut the mark. I don't know if that's a saying. Cut the mark, is it? Make the mark, muster the mark. Oh, cut the mustard.
You can't accomplish something, you can't do it.
Okay, I never heard that before. Cut the mustard, make the mark, whatever it is. It's hard sometimes to, get there, or be there, or even get close to being there. And therefore they come all bitter. Oh, Prabhupada's book, or the books, they think it's actually evil. Instead of thinking that this material world's, or thinking materialism is evil, they start thinking that the tenets or the principles of Krishna consciousness is evil. Specifically, they criticize, Prabhupada preaches against how the material world is just a terrible place and miserable place, and they think that's wrong. They think it's wrong because they don't have a higher taste. So in other words, it's like the Bhagavatam is saying we have to give up, means material consciousness. We have to give up trying to enjoy this material world. And then some people say, oh, well, that's just cruel. They're just punishing you. They're just punishing you. And it's like Bajranaran song. He said he was at some Catholic school, and then a nun raised her hand, and then the nun was saying, "Tell us about," and then he called her, and then she said, "Tell us about the mortifications of the flesh," denying the material world and everything. And then he said, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And then she was talking about the four principles, the four regulative principles. So in other words, she was saying it's like punishment or something. It's like, but the four the regulative principles of freedom, they're actually freedom. So you're not enslaved by these other things. But because people, they can't, sometimes they're not able to reach the mark, then, or whatever it is, whatever it's saying you want to say. Then they oh, this is just punishment. I'm being punished here. Interesting enough, his Prabhupada actually told his disciple that. I mentioned that some time ago. Prabhupada gave sannyas to Navayogendra Swami. So this was many years ago, actually, in Bombay, Juhu. And so then Brahmananda Prabhu and Navayogendra Swami, new Swami, they came up and they were talking with Prabhupada, and Brahmananda was saying, "Oh, Prabhupada, you're so merciful. You're giving sannyas to Navayogendra Swami. You're so merciful." Prabhupada said, "No." He said, "I'm cruel." He said, "Now he can't enjoy his senses." That's what he said, Navayogendra Swami. So, but he was just joking. But but yeah, we're advised to not be absorbed and interested and attached to this world. But we have the happiness or the bliss of Krishna consciousness, which is available to everyone. So practically speaking, that's how we transcend. That's how we transcend, and that's how we that's how we're able to continue in Krishna consciousness, actually, by that param drishva, that higher taste. And that comes by association, service with service to devotees, and by the mercy which we, or at least, I could say, that we need that mercy. We need special mercy, actually, which is available if we apply ourselves and strive. So, all right. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Question.
Okay.
So, I'm wanting to get some clarity on this point. I'm wanting to get some. Is it working?
Yeah. Yes.
It's okay. I'm wanting to get some clarity on this point. So you are saying that the solutions to our problems are in Krishna consciousness. Correct. But somebody would say,
Who's that somebody? Who's that somebody? You? No, I'm just joking. They? No,
yeah, we'll say they.
They.
Some would have it said that, okay, well, so you have complete Krishna consciousness and you have the material world. The material world has all its faults, and Krishna consciousness yes, it is the absolute answer, but unless you're on this absolute platform, then you have to be aware of all these faults and such things so that you can protect yourself. Because you're not apparently, unless you're on the platform where you can give up thinking about the body and whatnot, then does it make any sense? What I'm saying?
I mean,
so how do
the Bhagavatam like describes all the pitfalls and downfalls and possible dangers on the path of Krishna consciousness. It describes that. So it's not that it's not that we don't know the faults and we don't hear about them and so on, but there's kind of a point of what is called obsession. There's a point of addiction. There's a point of over-absorption in them, which is actually unhealthy. It's like an unhealthy absorption. Just like food. I mean, people eat food every day. Or people eat prasad every day, whatever. People take prasad every day. But there are some people who, it's just, like, I'm talking about very extreme people. They just can, like, it's completely overdue. I mean, they have TV shows about, people. They're just, I mean, they eat a lot, it's a disease which they can't overcome. So, it's a necessity, food, prasad, it's a necessity. But to become overly absorbed in it is actually unhealthy. So similarly, I mean, there's all these faults, or maybe all these faults. Become overly absorbed in it is unhealthy. And you see people who get absorbed and they just become unhappy. How can you be happy? Thinking about so many negative things. Negativity doesn't breed happiness. It breeds unhappiness. So, I mean, I don't know if that. I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said. I mean, I heard that. Like Tirtha Maharaj would repeat this regularly. That Bhakti, and it's true if we look at the life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada too, following him. I mean, a lot of the times they would explain what Krishna consciousness isn't, what it's not, which is important too. To there's what Krishna consciousness is, and there's what it's not. So we have to think about and understand both.
Well, I just wanted to add that if you're striving to become Krishna conscious, I mean, there is the whole thing of, you're either on the higher platform to where these things don't affect you and you are not contributing to it, and there's the platform where it's there, and there's no avoiding it for the most part. But we should, the fault finding and etc. But the point is that we should strive to not let it affect us. My Guru Maharaj, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, sent out emails talking about this very thing not a couple days ago. And basically it's just Shastric references. The verses were speaking mainly upon the reactions that one gets for criticizing or fault-finding another person, or being, someone pointing fault or criticizing to you, where the remedy to it is just to not be engaged in it. Because if you allow yourself to fault-find or be, reactive to it, you actually take on the sins, of that other person. If you criticize or fault-find with someone, then you're taking on the sins from that person. The fault-finder is always going to take on sinful reaction for having done that sin, so to speak, or offense, whatever you want to call it. So, so between where we are at, which is the bottom of the barrel in Krishna consciousness, so to speak, and up at that, the highest platform, we have to just strive and try not to engage ourselves in such activities or thoughts, you know, to even, I mean, and the best way to do it is within the mind. You know, it's like, even though it's Kali Yuga and we're not, how do you say it, accountable, so to speak, mentally for the sins or offenses that we commit mentally. But if we strive not to be in that frame of mind where we are mentally committing these offenses, then that helps us outwardly not to be in that position as well.
Ourselves outside of Krishna's service. Has that been discussed in this set of verses? Because it's not an illusion; it's Krishna's energy. And in the previous verse, it was really cool. The Lord's attached to his material energy, but he doesn't try to enjoy her. It's his energy. It's real. The illusion is that, well, one, it's temporary, unlike eternal spiritual energy. It's temporarily manifest, rather, but it's simply to be used in Krishna's service. That's what it's for. And those who do that, then they have no problem. She's there to help us.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think devotees, the last few devotees who've been speaking, mentioned that so much. That idea that you mentioned about there's nothing to be. What you said, there's nothing to be enjoyed.
It's not ours to enjoy. Yeah. Not even the body or the mind.
Yeah.
We're on the Krishna's energies to be used for his pleasure, as all other energies are.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only person to be finding fault is the guru, and that's because the person has submitted themselves to his guidance, and then it's his. You could say thankless task. The guru does not take pleasure in chastising or seeing the faults of his devotees, but he does it to help the child grow properly in service to Krishna. Mm-hmm. So if we're not the guru of whoever we're finding fault, then we know, hey, that's somebody else's service. Managers to some extent, but we really can see the pitfall of that too. It's a two-edged sword. Become overly absorbed in it, then you don't help them or yourself.
Yeah, there's one devotee who was finding some problems with other devotees, whatever. He wrote Prabhupada and Prabhupada wrote him a letter first. He said, "Oh, what do you expect from them?" He said, they're trying to serve Krishna and just, like, in other words, relax, just, back off, just give, don't be so hard on them, And then also there's another letter which Prabhupada he wrote. He said, "Oh, we get people from, it's not like you're importing people from Vaikuntha necessarily. When people join the temple or join the movement, I mean, they're just coming from the material world. So it takes time for people to, learn and all that, how to act and how to." So he said to tolerate. And then another time, that same devotee sent another letter out, and then Prabhupada responded. He said, "You should be an example. If you're finding some problems, then you should just set the best example." So there's different ways of going about it or thinking about it. So yeah.
Nothing wrong with finding faults if you're doing it with yourself.
Yeah.
And then even that's a topic of consideration, because if you become overly absorbed in your faults without placing them at the feet of the spiritual master, saying, I can't do this on my own. I'm just too jaded. I'm too flawed. I'm too conditioned, etc. I've got a ton of faults. But if you submit that to the spiritual master, begging for their help, that's the whole point of it. That is a very Krishna conscious way in which you can make rapid advancement. Because Srila Prabhupada set the example. He told us every day. He was always praying to the Krishna, "Please help me from falling into Maya," or "Please forgive me for my shortcomings and accept my service despite my shortcomings, etc. Those are moods that are part and parcel of the nature of the soul, that when we cultivate them, they're very advantageous to coming to that point where you can cry for Krishna. You can cry, help me here. Let me serve the names, let me serve the devotees.
Yeah, they said that, I don't know where it's from, but maybe it's, I think I mentioned this some time ago, but maybe recently, but there's some, I don't know where the saying is from. It's, oh, I've identified the enemy, and the enemy is me, Pogo? Okay. So, like in Bhagavad Gita, right, it says, oh, the mind, it's not controlled, it can be the worst enemy. And the mind controlled, its best friend. So one devotee, he sent something recently to me. He sends this stuff to me, but the picture of this guy, this kind of a random elderly guy. He almost looked kind of homeless, but anyways, there's a little quote there, and the quote said, God said to love your enemies, so I decided to love myself. Which I thought that was kind of nice. I mean, I thought it was nice that, because yeah, sometimes I tend to say, oh, I'm useless. I'm fallen and all these I have so many faults. And yeah, we may honestly feel that way and think that way about ourselves. But, to maybe give ourselves a little mercy too sometimes. So that's good. So.
Puts a very nice positive slant. Oh, you're chanting 2 rounds. Did you know that's 2.5 million names a year you're chanting? And you put it like that that can give somebody some inspiration. Like, wow, that's a lot. Usually it's the encouragement, the nectar, like Param Disvani Vartante, that encourages us forward. So if we can represent Krishna and the spiritual master, the Vaishnava's love for us to others, the love that they have for them, if we can be that representative, that medium, then maybe we can be empowered to encourage others to look to the bright side and keep going.
Sounds good.
Chant 16 rounds. For those who've taken the vow.
Yeah. Yeah, those taking the vow, yeah, chant 16. Minimum, yeah. Chant more sometimes, too. That's good, yeah. All right, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.